I mean, this is the British Championship, so it's way beyond the situation of everybody wins a prize. But when you're thinking about the heat race we've just seen and everyone finishing in a position that's relevant to their standings in the karting world, we're going to see the opposite almost in Heat 4. I think this is almost the heat of disappointment, because there's too many people who really ought to be doing well who are going to come out of this with a lot less point than they figured.
I agree. I agree with you, actually. Yeah, you're right. Because easily any of those drivers could win this race. Easily any of those drivers could end up bottom of this race as well. So it's going to be a very tough one. I think we probably might see a shock in this one.
Yeah.
But it's going to. I think the issue we're at the stage now. Everyone's got that first race out of the way, and now we're going to see two groups of people. One group of people who are happy with their result, and can maybe consolidate with another solid one, but also people who need a good result and are desperate to get one.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to see. I think perhaps in this race is a good example of that. Gorlo's going to need to maybe get higher than a fourth in this one, to give him any chance of a final or
Absolutely.
semi. Michael Weddle probably going to need a similar. Ryan Smith and Steve Gray, you could say the same for. But then on the flip side of it, you have Ben Greenwood, Craig McAllister and Bradley Philpott, who had good results, maybe could afford a third or a fourth in this one, but won't want it.
Absolutely, they'll never want that, will they? The key of this race for me is, I think, more than anything, we're going to see some people who ought to be top three actually being fifth and sixth. And as you say, it could be any one of them. I mean, there's a potential for surprises here. And of course, like I say, we can't have everyone get surprised, but some of these guys are going to be out of place big time and losing a lot of points.
Yeah, and speaking of which, they're coming across the line to finish off their qualifying now. So let's have a look who's on pole at the moment.
Well, basically, we've got Ben Greenwood, who's the current pole sitter, and Bradley Philpott's just gone quicker than him, only just by 0.3 of a second. Can anyone beat that? We've only got Michael Weddle and Nick Mason. Cameron Gorlo's come through in third, Steve Gray fourth. What have we got? Weddle in second place. It's still Philpott in the lead, but Weddle has pushed Greenwood back. Ryan Smith in ninth. Oh my goodness, he will be very upset with that one. Of course, he won't know about it till they're pulling the carts forward, and he's just going to be thinking they've forgotten him. Because Ryan Smith in ninth, when did we ever say that?
I think he'll know. I mean, particularly to do a lap like that and come in at ninth, you probably made a mistake on a lap like that as someone his ability. So I think
if I can just cut in now, sorry, he's only 0.6 behind Philpott though.
Well, that's true. That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe he might not realise. Maybe it's a lot closer than we think. And actually, that just goes to show the testament of the closest of this grid and why we thought it was going to be so tough in the first place.
Absolutely. And again, Ryan Smith, possibly the first person on that list of driving well, but coming away with less than what he'd hoped for. Certainly they're all lining up now with Philpott in the lead there in first place. Michael Weddle will be really chuffed with that second place, although he's a strong competitor every time out. Ben Greenwood, one of those people who was just not in our sights to begin with, but we're having to pay attention to and take very seriously. My personal tip for a wild card for the championship, Anwar. And well, here we are coming round for the start of the race. Philpott's going to be leading around. He's going to be backing him up there and making sure that he gets a good clean start for the whole field. He doesn't want to have to do this twice, that's a fact. So he's going to be backing him up, but he's picking the pace up really early. It's the earliest we've seen people hit the gas. He's caught him by surprise. Weddle's gone with him, but they've left Ben Greenwood a bit, and I think the rest of the field were a little bit stretched out simply because they weren't ready for Philpott to be going quite so early. Most people have left it fairly late. Philpott has got the attention of Michael Weddle all over him. Weddle's known Philpott long enough not to give anything back to him. There's certainly going to be no Jake Campbell Mills waving people back in this one on Brad Philpott, is there?
Absolutely not, no. If there's one thing Weddle doesn't operate, it's a charity. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to give it all he can, but it looks to me as they came onto the back straight, yep, that's what I thought. Brad is just starting to stretch Weddle already. And Ben Greenwood's actually, he looks to have some pace in him. I mean, considering he got dropped at that start, in that one lap, he's already closed up. So keep an eye on that.
Absolutely, and Ben Greenwood, of course, he's working on Michael Weddle. So Michael Weddle, once again, now while we've said it, the second place needs to get on the leader because the third place is making some beans of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that's sort of, like you said, running theme of the day in a sense. We've only had a couple of races where it hasn't gone along those lines. And all in all, the battles have been for second and third and fourth. And yeah, I think we're seeing that again. Again, Steve Gray's got a good showing there. He's looking to make some ground just ahead of Craig McAllister, who we know is also quick. But Ben Greenwood, let's keep an eye on that because I'm pretty sure he's going to make a move on Weddle at some point. He's running very close behind him.
Ben Greenwood has marked himself out as someone we cannot discount in any situation, and well, you've got to be saying that he's on Weddle more than Weddle's on Philpott. Philpott is trying to do the get out front and clear off kind of number. He's got a clear road. He doesn't have to worry about anybody in front of him. He's not trying to make a position. But Michael Weddle, as you say, never operates a charity, and he's going to be keen to take that Philpott if he can. They are breaking a bit clear. We've got Camille Gorlo, World Championship semi-finalist in fourth. So breaking clear of somebody like that is doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not good for Camille because, like we said, he really wants to be trying to overachieve on the fourth that he got earlier. So he wants to be trying to get onto the back of that group, but it just looks to me like he hasn't quite got the pace in it at the moment. Having said that, you never know what might happen in this race, especially if Philpott decides to go defensive. We might actually have a bit of a field scrunch going on. I just noticed as well, James, that actually Ryan Smith has pitted early. I think good strategy from him, being in the position he was in. He was never going to make too much time up from overtakes. Make more sense to maybe pit early, get a bit of clean air, and see where you come out.
Absolutely, and well spotted on that one. We've also got Steve Gray has come into the pits from 5th place. He's gone for the early pit stop option. Maybe he's seen some of the other runners sort of pitting themselves out of problems, and he figures he's going to do the same. Needless to say, though, that means he's now got clear air, and he just needs to run it absolutely flat out to the end now. Maybe he's done it right, or maybe he should have actually let these guys pull him along, and so he knew that he was on the right pace. It's going to be an interesting one to follow that.
I think that you should only be making a pit stop if you think it's going to gain you an advantage. And at the end of the day, if you're being held up, that counts. If you're not, if you're being towed along and no one's in your way, then you need to use it for another reason. And it didn't look to me like Steve was really backed up in that train. But having said that, again, I've made similar calls today, and it just gets turned topsy-turvy purely because of other people's bad pit stops. So it might work out for him.
So we're thinking it may be a bit of, in Steve's case, of what the heck, let's see what happens if I pit early sort of thing, and throw it forward and see what comes out.
Again, he might not like following people. It might be a personal preference. He might think I'm better in clear air, so it might work for him. But we're going to find out pretty shortly, I think. But one thing I would say is that it's not done Ryan Smith any favours, because Ryan Smith is now quite far behind Steve Gray, which we expected because Ryan Smith was in 9th at the time. But I think Ryan could have done with everyone staying out a bit longer and allowing him to close whilst they battled a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would have been to Ryan's advantage there. Ryan Smith, we can see him in the red suit. He's coming onto the back straight now with the white helmet. We're normally used to a more colourful design of helmet, but Ryan running a new lid this championship, yet to be painted up, and he comes into the stadium area now. He, of course, running in a lower position than what we're used to, and as Anwar pointed out, he could have probably done with everyone fighting a bit and backing themselves up into each other and allowing him to close in a bit more. We've got Brad Philpott coming into the stadium area now. That's the race leader. There he is. And behind him is Michael Weddle and, of course, Ben Greenwood. Ben Greenwood is really working on Michael Weddle. Weddle, though, soaking up the pressure fantastically. And behind them, of course, Camille Gorlo, World Championship semi-finalist. He's not really making inroads. Greenwood's making a move. Greenwood up the inside. Oh, we're out of view with the grandstands. Greenwood had a huge look up the inside to Michael Weddle, but nothing came of it. Weddle was able to assume the normal racing line and got away there. But that's the first move we've seen on Weddle from Ben Greenwood. And Greenwood obviously showing signs of starting to get racy, Anwar.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we haven't noticed as well is Gorlo is absolutely coming back into this now. And always we've got Greenwood into the pits, and he's cleared the first one. Not bad. I think he got that pretty well spot on. Stop for the second one. Starts to roll. Oh, that's close, but he's done it. So it's a good stop. Interestingly enough, Steve Gray's made up a lot of time on Ben Greenwood there. So that pit stop for Steve Gray has paid off, I think.
Yes, it was an interesting one. It was one that we felt was without a bit of rhyme or reason, just what the heck, I'll come in the pits now. But it's working for him. Ben Greenwood, of course, I don't think we've seen anybody that far forward without pulling a yellow light. So it was quite something on that second part of the pit stop, Anwar.
Well, having looked at the times just now of the pit stop, it was... Oh, and Weddle's just come into the pit, so this will be interesting to see where he feeds out. Good stop. Is he going to do it easily? He's done it.
Somehow, of course, Weddle there has managed to make what didn't look the brilliantest of pit stops.
Well, in comparison, I was just about to say that even though I thought that the pit stop from Weddle looked pretty good, I looked at the time, 44.5. Okay, pretty quick. But then we looked at Ben Greenwood's pit stop, 45.8. That's 1.4 seconds. 1.4 seconds that he's lost in the pit stop, and you can see it visually on the track now.
Absolutely right there, Amar. You can see it on the track, and that's why really he's a bit further back from Michael Weddle, coming past the stadium area now in the 18. There's Greenwood in the 12 with the orange top to his helmet, and that's why Steve Gray appeared to really close in. So the positions are practically what they were, but Ben Greenwood is a slight sort of loser out on that deal. He's working hard to catch up with Michael Weddle, though, and the way he's been running so far, it's not impossible he's going to do it. The question is, will he bring Steve Gray with him? Oh, Steve Gray runs a bit wide there, hits the wall, just tags the wall slightly, but enough to lose a bit of time. Steve Gray, he really could use Ben Wood to close up a bit. Whether he can do it without doing mistakes like catching the wall like we've just seen is another question, Emma.
Yeah, well, actually, the more interesting point is Camel Gorlo. At the moment, currently doing lap times similar to that of Philpott, the leader. At the time of the pit stops, he was right on the back of Weddle and also Ben Greenwood. If he keeps this pace going, he could jump at least one of them for sure, and that will put him right on the back of the other one, if not in front. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on that, and if he can keep that pace going.
Absolutely right, Anwar, and it's almost a situation similar to where we kind of forgot about Ollie Biani, and Oliver Biani, of course, suddenly then have reappeared as a potential winner of a previous race, and we'd stopped talking about him, and so it could play in the hands of Camel Gorlo. And we've got someone in the pits. It's Mason in the pits, Nick Mason in the pits. He's coming out now. He's coming out into clear air. He's not going to affect anybody at all. Looks like Lee Henderson in the 11 cart would have been the one going through, but he's miles behind. So no problem there with Mason. Here comes Brad Philpott in the 16, a very comfortable lead now. That's Camel Gorlo behind him. In real terms, he's further back than that. I think we're waiting for Gorlo to pit, aren't we?
Yes, and also for Philpott to pit as well. But one thing I would say as well is I just noticed when Nick Mason pitted that Ryan Smith's now got himself up into 7th. So that early pit stop has gained him a couple of positions. Let's see if he can get onto the back of the train when the rest of them pit. He might be able to pick off a couple at the end, but it's better than what it was for him.
Absolutely. Ryan Smith, he was starting 9th. He clearly had it all to do. It's not like it went wrong in the first lap. He knew going into the race that he had a lot of work on, so he was able to think and work according to that rather than have to change plan from having qualified fairly high. Ryan Smith, of course, is someone that we can expect to be on the move like that. We certainly can't rule anything out by him. He's obviously given himself a tough task qualifying 9th. I'm sure he was doing his best, but he's certainly coming through the order. Once again, like we saw with Bjorn Vermeulen, particularly and a couple of others, it's possible to make a comeback. We might be seeing that from Ryan Smith now.
Potentially. I think Ryan's got a shot at perhaps maybe a top 5, but the problem is at the moment he's just too far from Steve Gray. He needs to be a lot closer to him. Steve Gray's got good pace, which is why he's dropping him. It's all about really where Craig McAllister feeds back out into, who's just coming around now across the start-finish line behind Gorlo. Now, the interesting thing is that we haven't noticed him either, and it seems to me that he's keeping pace with Gorlo, and if Gorlo's going quickly, it must mean that he is too.
Yeah, absolutely right there, Anwar. If he's staying with him, he's staying with him. It doesn't matter how far back he technically is right now. He is there on pace. If we can get some kind of view on where people are. So coming past the stadium section now, here's Brad Philpott in the 16. So he's right below you there if you're in the stadium. And there's Camel Gorlo in the 15. And now we've got McAllister coming through, so we can see the relative gaps there. McAllister's coming in the pits. Now this can be very interesting because here comes Michael Weddle and Ben Greenwood, and they're bringing Steve Gray with him. This could be crucial for McAllister. This could be really serious. He might even lose a place. Yes, he has. That was a terrible stop. Terrible stop. Anwar, what's going on here?
Well, that's done Ryan a favour. He's blown the pit stop. He's going to have to do that again now, Craig McAllister. And what that means is that Ryan Smith's now got himself up into 6th. So effectively, I think that's probably, looking at the gaps now to Steve Gray, I think that's probably the ultimate that he's going to achieve, which is not bad considering where he started.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great run by Gray. If we look across the backstretch in the orange helmet, we've got McAllister coming down the straight there, and right behind him is Ryan Smith. So Ryan Smith, without question, here comes McAllister to take his penalty stop. Smith is going to definitely pass him. So's the 9, which is Oliver Davis, the Herefordshire Raceway driver. So, and in fact, McAllister's losing positions hand over fist. His pit stop's clean. It's looking good. It's the second time around because of a penalty. What a shame. Here comes. Now this shows you how much time there is to lose, because there's Brad Philpott, the leader of the race. McAllister wasn't far behind him when he first went in the pits. Now he's nearly a lap down. That's it's murder for McAllister. He must be distraught.
Well, that's effectively 20 seconds instead of 10 added onto his race time. He's also now dead last. I mean, it's such a shame when that happens, but it just goes to show if you try and run too close to the wire for your pit stop and take a risk, what that means is you end up running the risk of actually having to do it again and costing yourself even more time. So I put it to you, is it worth 10 seconds, you know, if to just wait maybe a further second on your pit stop, probably not.
Absolutely, Anwar, and it goes without saying a risk is always a risk, isn't it? You know, you take chances on that pit stop, you get a penalty, and it's 10 seconds. At this level, it's game over, really. We've got an interesting battle down there, though. We've got the 12 car of Ben Greenwood, who's working hard on the back of Michael Weddle now. He seems to be caught up with him. He's pulled away a bit from Steve Gray. Steve Gray's still behind there. We are waiting for the first two to make their pit stops. That's, of course, Brad Philpott. Brad Philpott catching up with Craig McAllister there. So McAllister going through in the orange and white helmet. There's Philpott behind him. Here's Camel Gorlow. We're waiting for Camel Gorlow's pit stop too. And that is really interesting relative to the battle for what is now third of Weddle and Greenwood. We're thinking that he might end up smack in the middle of that, and that isn't going to be nice, is it?
Well, the interesting thing now is that Weddle and Greenwood are actually going about 3 or 4 tenths a lap slower than Gorlow. Let's have a look on that last lap, what they were doing. So they pulled it back to only a couple of tenths now. But if they're having the odd lap where they're losing a few tenths, just think Gorlow was right behind them at the pit stops. Surely by now he's in front of them, as long as he doesn't blow his own pit stop.
Absolutely right, and that comes back to the old favourite of wait a second to save 10 that we've just been saying. So how will Camel Gorlow play this? Will he go for a super quick stop and possibly even blow it completely, or will he play safe and risk running into the clutches of these two? Going across the line now they are, Michael Weddle and Ben Greenwood. We believe, Anwar, that he's got enough to do it, yeah?
Well, at the moment I'd say he's got around 11 a second lead, and if we assume that a pit stop is around 10 seconds, then assuming it's not a bad pit stop, then he's absolutely got enough in his locker to do it. It's just a matter of, can he stretch it a bit further? Because ideally you want a bit of a comfort zone to come out. You don't want to be coming out and battling with them straight away into the first hairpin. But I think at the moment, if he were to pit, he might be able to do it.
Absolutely, and it's Camel Gorlow we're talking about. Camel Gorlow going out of view past race control in the blue suit against these guys coming across the finish line now of Weddle and Greenwood. Camel Gorlow, we think, has now got enough time to make a pit stop. Crucially, he's staying out, and he is ever so slightly faster than those behind. Not by much, but enough to make a little bit of a difference. Every lap he stays out, going quicker, is a little bit more time in hand. Should he have to make be very careful in the pit stop, or even try and avoid the blowing it if anything goes wrong. They are getting pretty racy behind. Ben Greenwood seems to have been starting to make some moves on Michael Weddle. Looks like he's getting a bit snaky trying to get past. That's costing him time, which says everything. Steve Gray is sort of closing in ever so slightly, and Ryan Smith continues on his damage limitation. He's moving up. Where is Smith now? He's he's up to 6th. Smith is up to 6th, and that's obviously better than his 9th that he qualified at. So a lot of good work there by Ryan Smith, and he's probably been the one working hardest in this race, even though we haven't had much to mention.
Absolutely, and whilst I don't want to move away from Ryan quickly, it's just one thing that I thought of, is I don't actually think that Weddle and Greenwood are aware of Gorlow still being in the game. Because if you think about it, when they pitted, Gorlow was running 4th behind them. They had no idea that he was there. No. I don't think that they realise just how much time they're losing to him. And I think Weddle's going to get the shock of his life when someone comes out the pits in front of him, and he's going to think, is this a back marker? Because I don't think that there has a clue that he's in a race with someone right now.
You know what? There's just a feeling I'm getting looking down there. I think they're fully attentive to each other. I mean, already Weddle's getting defensive. Yeah. Greenwood's thinking only of passing Weddle, thinking of nothing else. I bet if you asked them where they were in the race, they wouldn't know.
Absolutely.
And but they just know they're battling with each other. Steve Gray, of course, is this is his chance to close in if they start getting a bit aggressive. But I'm just not quite sure. I think that they've got that slight edge over him that they can afford to fight and stay ahead of Steve Gray, Anwar. I don't think Steve Gray is going to really be able to close in, because if you look at it, especially in the hairpins, Ben Greenwood always making a move, but he's got caught. He stayed behind. They've both lost a lot of time to Steve Gray, but I think it's going to take more than that for Gray to catch him.
Yes, well, that's true, but I think now that's pretty much given second place to Gorlow, to be honest with you. Yeah. I do think if that happens again, Gray is going to get involved in this battle. You know, he's not far away. I mean, we haven't got long left to this race, I know, but at the same time, if they do things like that, they're just going to end up falling down the order.
And if there's much more of that going on, what about Ryan Smith? How is he looking on times? I mean, he is 6th at the moment, but could we see him in the middle of the battle? Because that's way up the order. That's going to be 3rd place.
Well, Ryan Smith, unfortunately, I think maybe just a little bit too far. I think he's 3 seconds back from Steve Gray at the moment, and Steve Gray is looking doubtful whether he might even get onto the back of this battle. But I think Ryan will be pleased in the sense that he's done well to come from 9th. I think he'll be disappointed with his qualifying, but he'll be pleased that he's done well to salvage something from it. But just to mention about Philpott, we haven't talked about him because obviously he's been too far in the lead, but it's been a very good race from him. I mean, he's back in the lap times in terms of 33.9s, pretty much on pace with the front guys who we've seen racing so far. He's got to be a real contender this year, surely.
Absolutely. I mean, he is the organiser of the BRKC. It's technically his championship, and he's also a very fair racer. He doesn't want any gimmies, and anything Brad Philpott does is really on his own merit. He's done a lot of racing. Oh, and a bit of a collision there. It's Weddell and Greenwood, and Weddell really not happy about that, whacking the back of his own helmet as if to say, what are you doing hitting me? Here's Steve Gray, and they're still fighting. They're side by side, and Gray is now going to be in the mix. Well, what about Ryan Smith? He's closing in on the pair of them. He's bringing someone with him, and that is going to be Oliver Davis. There's something in this yet. Philpott into the pits, Brad Philpott into the pits. Camel Gorlo is going to assume the lead just. Philpott comes out of the pits and away he goes. What's going on with Weddell and Greenwood? Weddell and Greenwood, they're coming into the stadium area now. Here they are. It's nose to tail. Greenwood surely is going to have another move at him. No, he doesn't. But Steve Gray's right there. There are 3 carts there now. And Ryan Smith surely can see those 3 ahead and is going to want to close in. He's got 2.5 minutes if he's going to do it.
This is what I mean. I genuinely think that Greenwood potentially is costing both of them the race at the moment. And again, I don't think either of them realise it. I think Weddell has a sneaky suspicion, and you can tell because of his reaction. He's not thinking about the fact that Philpott's gone in the distance. In his mind, he's thinking, you're holding me up. And Gorlo's in the pits. So here he comes.
And this is the bit we were looking for. But he's good. He's good.
Fine.
And he's come out well ahead. In fact, to be honest, Amwell, that was a bigger margin than what I was expecting. I was thinking he'd come out about 3 or 4 car lengths ahead of him. But look at that gap there. There he goes out the view of race control. For those in the grandstand, you won't be able to see him at all. But here he comes possibly back into view, extreme right there. That's Gorlo in the blue suit. And Gorlo's on the back straight now, and then we'll look back and we'll see how far back Weddell is. Quite some way there to Weddell, Greenwood and Steve Gray. They're all in a tight battle, though, those 3. I think Gorlo, he's done enough. He did it right. He had the speed and made the gap and extended it, like you said, Anwar. And meanwhile, Michael Weddell is just trying to hang on to that 3rd place.
Well, to be fair as well, just looking at Gorlo's pit stop, 44.8, that's a pretty good pit stop lap. But, we talked about the gap, maybe thinking it wasn't going to be as much as that. I mean, that was before they started doing these silly lunges on each other. And, Greenwood's attempted pass down here at the last corner. Okay, I can understand why he's going for it, but all it's done is bring both of them to almost a stop and has effectively cost him a podium and cost Weddell second.
And really, if you look at it, there's coming into the stadium area now. You've got Michael Weddell, you've got Ben Greenwood. Steve Gray's in 19. Now, he's the reference point because Steve Gray hasn't gone any faster. It's just all the fighting has pulled Weddell and Greenwood back to him. And, of course, they've come back to him and away from Camel Gorlo. So that's really been to Camel Gorlo's advantage. Somebody we see actually a bit down the tail of the order, someone who's going to probably be a bit disappointed with is Lee Henderson, of course, with its pretty magical 4th place in an earlier heat race. And we're kind of back down to 9th now for Lee Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Lee will be too disappointed. I think when I spoke to him earlier on, he didn't expect a lot from this race. His lap time is fairly good, though. 34.2. That's not too far off the pace of the other guys, so I think there's something for him to build on.
Yeah.
However, again, it is a pretty good 4th place that he got earlier, and I'm sure, he probably got his hopes up for the rest of the weekend. But I think at the same time, he had a bit of realism as, Greenwood and Weddell are going side by side yet again. This could be interesting. Can they make it round? Is he going to get the undercut on him just as they disappear? And the checker flag comes out for Philpott as well, so good win for him. But this is the last lap, last chance as Gorlo comes around to take second, and it looks like Weddell's done enough. But 3rd place, I think he'll be disappointed that they've let Gorlo get away with it.
And Steve Gray crosses the line there. He crosses the line in 5th place, but he slaps his steering wheel as he does. I think Steve Gray, watching all that going on ahead, realised he caught up with them because they're shenanigans. And on that last lap, I think he had visions that he might have been able to do something. So he was a bit disappointed not to capitalise on that. But a great run overall by Brad Philpott. He's, to be fair, he is right up there with the best of them. He's done it like we've seen Stefan Verhofstadt and Ruben Boutens. It's a class act, lights to flag victory. Never really contested that by Philpott. Camel Gorlo, that was about the most stealthy 2nd place we've seen, really, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. He came out of nowhere. I mean, we sort of forgot that he was there, a bit like the same as the Oli Barney in the previous race. Yeah, I think Camel needed that. We said, didn't we, that 4th in the first race, he ideally wanted to build on that to get another decent result under his belt to get into the semi and maybe the final. And he's done that now, and I think that will give him something to build on for the rest of the weekend. But Bradley, great race from him. Managed to hold off everyone in terms of pace. No one got really near his lap times in that race, and he'll be feeling pretty confident, I think, ahead of tomorrow.